Tyson Blanton joins us from Duke Energy. Again, we're continuing to follow up on Saturday's storm. We are still in the process of learning exactly what took place on Saturday. We know we got a lot of wind, rain, and hail, but what exactly took place, that is, of course, what Chuck Haynes with the Office of Emergency Management was just mentioning, that the National Weather Service will have boots on the ground here today to survey the damage and compare that damage with what the monitors told them on Saturday. But when there is a storm, our agencies and our utility companies respond accordingly, and that's the case for Duke Energy. Tyson, walk us through the last 24, 48 hours through the eyes of Duke Energy.
Yeah, so we were all having a wonderful, beautiful Saturday. The weather was so nice. People were by their pool, and then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah.
And we saw outages start popping up. I got a couple of phone calls, and I said, I better check the radar a little bit, and saw that fully red cell just moving across our service territory, and the outages tracked. It quickly went from a beautiful blue sky sunny day with 0 outages to over 8,000 in South Carolina, and more than 5,000 of those were locally in Lancaster, Chester, York counties, and then Cherokee a little bit. But it really peaked in York County, specifically the city of York. There was more than 3,000 there alone. And, I'm sure y'all have heard this a lot. It really came out of nowhere and popped up, and thankfully, we have those line workers that are always on call, even the ones that aren't on call that we can call in, and they were responsive within the hour on site, surveying damage and starting to make repairs.
So that's what's taken place or has been taking place since Saturday, is just replacing the down power lines and poles that were damaged during Saturday's storm?
Yeah, and we get a lot where people, you look at it and we call them ETRs, but estimated time of restoration, and those numbers aren't out there yet. Those guys are surveying damage. That's the first step, is to find out where the issues have occurred and figure out a plan of action to get the most people back on as safely as possible, and critical infrastructure. So the communications center in York lost service, and we worked with them to get that on as a priority. So it's a lot of prioritizations. It's a lot of figuring out how we can make the most impact. It's never fun to be the last person to get their power back on. So, of course, we appreciate our customers' patience and understanding as our line workers are out there working. But those guys are true heroes, and we're the ones out there, boots on the ground within the hour.
And we appreciate them as well. We were just saying or mentioning that I think it was Thursday, was National Line Workers Day. So, again, and we were talking on air about how you don't really understand what it's like to have what you have daily until you don't have it. And it's guys like men and women like this who helped us over the weekend to get it up quickly. I know that you also mentioned another obstacle or challenge was the snap trees that were everywhere. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, whenever that happens, so a lot of times you pray that those lines stay up and we can just remove the trees, and it stays up that way. But a lot of times those trees snapping in half tear down spans of line. So a span is between one pole to the next pole. When it tears that down, it's a 4 to 6 hour process to reinstall the pole and get those lines back up, and that could just impact one customer. So whenever you start thinking about it like that 6 hours to replace one pole or one span of line, it's truly incredible how many people they get back on as quickly as they do. Obviously not everyone, every outage impacts that way, but it's a lot of work for just to get one person back on sometimes.
Tyson Blanton is with Duke Energy. Tyson, we know when we have any kind of storms, the goal is to get power restored as fast as we can. And with new technology entering our lives almost daily, it seems, you all are using that at Duke Energy to see how to get it on even faster. And walk our listeners and viewers through this. This is fascinating.
Yeah, and sometimes to even completely avoid an outage. So, we have a really cool stat from last year. Obviously, we don't have numbers from yesterday, but we avoided 9,000 hours of outage time just in York County alone from self-healing technology. So self-healing technology is very similar to your GPS. If you've ever taken a wrong road, which I've done over and over again, or you run into a roadblock and your GPS says rerouting, and it sends you in a different direction, we have technology that does similar things. So if a tree contacts a line and there's a way for our self-healing technology to reroute around, it'll save that outage completely, and it allows our line workers to go to a completely different outage and get even more people back on. So I was telling y'all before that if you've ever had your power blink and it comes right back on, or maybe it blinks twice and then it comes on and stays on, that means that some really cool piece of technology is working. It's not always self-healing, but there's technology on our grid that is restoring and clearing outages all the time, so we can keep people on all the time and not have to go and respond to those outages, which obviously lets us get more people back on faster. So it's incredible technology, fascinating learning about
Mind
it.
blown
I know,
for
right?
sure. I mean, really, what an interesting concept. And again, the
You don't
layman
think about it.
would never think of that. The lights don't turn on. We get frustrated. We call,
Yeah.
report the outage, and sit
Or even
there
if
and
it
wait.
blinks, you're like, oh, okay, it came back on.
Sweet.
So
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
But to your point, it's technology understanding and becoming smarter, as long as they don't take over the world, which that's a discussion for another day for sure. Tyson Blanton again is with Duke Energy as we continue to monitor and recap Saturday's storm. Tyson, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank y'all for
you.
having us.